Latest from the Russia-Ukraine war. While two neighbors are busy trading charges over shelling at Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, the world stands in fear of a possible catastrophe, as Kiev claimed fresh pounding around the power plant on Thursday. While calling out Russia, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said that the power plant was struck 5 times yesterday, including a place near a radioactive material storage area. He further added that Russia was using the plant to threaten the world and sought its complete demilitarization.
Те, що відбувається зараз навколо Запорізької АЕС, це один з найбільших злочинів держави-терориста. Сьогодні зафіксовані чергові прильоти російських снарядів по території станції в безпосередній близькості від об'єктів АЕС. Росія вкотре пробила дно у світовій історії тероризму. Ніхто більше не використовував атомну станцію так очевидно для погроз усьому світу і для висування якихось там умов. І абсолютно усі в світі мають реагувати негайно, щоб вигнати окупантів з території Запорізької атомної станції.
Now, Russia, on the other hand, claimed that Ukrainian shelling had partly damaged the thermal power plant splash pools that form part of the reactor's cooling systems as well. Looking at the gravity of the situation, UN Security Council convened an emergency meet to address the nuclear power plant crisis. The UN chief, Antonio Guterres, urged for withdrawal of military personnel and equipment. He called for Russia and Ukraine not to target the facilities or the surrounding areas. This as International Atomic Energy Chief Rafael Grossi briefed the 15-member Security Council yesterday on the request of Russia. Grossi said that he was ready to lead an IAEA mission to Zaporizhzhia and called on Russia and Ukraine to cooperate for this visit. He further added that this is a grave hour and needs to be dealt with seriously.
This is a serious hour, grave hour, and the IAEA must be allowed to conduct its mission to Zaporizhzhia as soon as possible.
Meanwhile, China has also expressed concern over Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant. During the meet, China's permanent representative to the United Nations said that the nuclear safety, there's no room for trial and error. However, he added that as per the reports, the attack does not pose any immediate threat.
India expresses its concern over the reports of shelling near the spent fuel storage facility of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. We call for mutual restraint so as not to endanger the safety and security of nuclear facilities. Mr. President, India continues to remain concerned over the situation in Ukraine. Since the beginning of the conflict, India has consistently called for an immediate cessation of hostilities and an end to violence. We've called upon both sides to return to the path of diplomacy and dialogue. We support all diplomatic efforts to end the conflict.
Now, for more on this, we have with us Yehor Bralyan, who is a journalist from Kiev. Thank you so much for joining us on this broadcast. Now, of course, there are fears of increased nuclear threat. What can you tell us about the situation on ground currently and possible outcomes of this?
So the main problem is that Russia has been occupied the territory of Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, the biggest in Europe since March. And as for now, we saw a lot of shellings from the Russian side of this nuclear power plant, and Ukrainian authorities can't control it, and so Russia at the same time can't do more offensive operations in the Zaporizhzhia region, and because the Ukrainian armed forces are providing the defense operations in that area. And so from the international perspective, we see the weak response, because only through sanctioning Russia for their nuclear blackmail and nuclear terrorism, it's possible to find the proper solution.
All right.
And everyone remembers the Chernobyl nuclear disaster of 1986, and it could be 6 times worse than Chernobyl one.
All right. Now, of course, there have been calls for withdrawal of military personnel and equipment and complete demilitarization by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky as well. What can we expect going forward? What sort of de-escalation can we expect?
We don't see that Russia want to de-escalate the situation because they are still controlling the nuclear power plant, and they want to do more provocations. I want to remind you that in June, for example, they killed one of workers of plant because they wanted to do some damage for some reactors, and this worker refused to do it, and they just killed him. So Ukraine can't know the proper situation, what is going on the plant, and the main solution could be that Russian armed forces will leave the territory of nuclear power plant, and Ukrainian authorities will control it and will regain its control. And for Russia, this NPP is very important because they want to get the electricity to the occupied Crimea from that NPP. And they technically it's possible, but they have not done it yet.
All right. Well, Mr. Yor, thank you so much for joining us on this broadcast. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.